In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to effectively counter and punish pawn side attacks using a specific game example. I'm sure this has happened to you in plenty of games. For example, your opponent starts pushing these pawns and puts a lot of pressure on you. Well, you can actually punish that if you do it the right way. In this specific game, which was played with the Sicilian defense, widely known as one of the most popular and complex defenses in all of chess, the player Patricia Yaneza, and I truly love that it was a woman because we unfortunately rarely feature women on this channel just by pure statistics. I really love that she showed us exactly how to punish this kind of aggressive pawn advance in a very instructive way. You're gonna love it. Pay close attention. The first moves are from a completely standard Sicilian. As a matter of fact, I'm sure most of you already know these specific moves by heart. The Sicilian is played with pawn to e6, and they typically opt to go for the open Sicilian variation. You know which one it is? Here you could play in a super closed way. For example, with d3, with g3, this would be a setup from the King's Indian attack. You could also play the Rossolimo attack, which is also very closed, with bishop to b5. But the open Sicilian, which gives white the most significant opportunities to win the position, is this one here, the move d4, which serves to directly challenge the Sicilian pawn. Whenever you offer the d4 pawn in the Sicilian, black will almost invariably choose to capture it. Why? Because black is trading a bishop's pawn for a queen's pawn, which is a significantly more valuable exchange. But don't worry, because that's balanced out by the big advantage we have when it comes to the rapid development and coordination of our minor pieces. A logical move in the Khan variation of the Sicilian defense is this a6. It's true that it looks like all the pawns are on white squares and black hasn't developed anything yet. However, all of this has been extensively analyzed and documented in opening theory, and it's very important to focus on maintaining firm control over the critical b5 square. I'm going to go through all this a little faster because it's not the main point, okay? Knight to c3. As you can see, white has a development advantage. Queen to c7, also a completely theoretical move, and bishop to d3. If I had to pose the question to you about what immediately catches your eye regarding this position, most of you would probably say the exact same observation. White clearly has a very significant development advantage, right? It's true that this position has been studied, and it's by no means an advantage for white. But it's clear that when we develop our pieces faster than our opponent, we have more weapons to fight in the game, right? It's as simple as that. It's like playing a soccer match with 10 players against 3. Obviously, the team with 10 players, the 10, have a much better chance of winning. Pay attention, because here the player with the black pieces, Jose Abril, tried to expand directly on the queen side. And this, especially for those of you who don't have a very high level, for example 1600 or much less, okay, you can easily understand that in your own games, many times these specific kinds of aggressive attacks are played, and well, they don't really, let's say, prioritize proper piece development. Alright, even though these particular players have a pretty high competitive rating, these things still happen quite often, right? Now, let's look at short castling. As you can see, it's true that the player with the white piece is doing everything perfectly, because she's developing her pieces quickly, castling her kings super fast, and she's going to take advantage of that, and now we'll see how. Bishop to b7. Now then, the player with the black pieces is correctly developing the dark squared bishop. And rook to e1. Now she can afford to place a rook on square e1, one of the most important central squares for rooks. Knight to c6. In this case, since the bishop is blocking the queen's defense, the player with the white pieces simply decides to capture this knight and tries to exchange the knights. And now, this is where the interesting part of the game begins. The player with the white pieces realizes she has a big development advantage. However, that's the only advantage she has, right? That black has all these pieces here and hasn't been able to castle. And it doesn't seem easy at all, does it? Opening the center to try to attack the king, maybe by playing f4, f5, but this would seriously weaken our own king, who could be attacked along this diagonal, both by the queen and the bishop. You could also push this pawn so the light squared bishop can get into the game, and it really doesn't seem easy at all to attack that opponent's king. By the way, now we're going to see how this player did it, because it's impressive. But not before I forget to thank you all. You're loving the course that Grandmaster Mauricio Flores has prepared for you, aren't you? I'm not going to go on for too long. Why? Because I'm going to talk about it at the end of the game, so I won't bother you at all right now. Alright, so the idea here is that the white pieces played e5, which is truly a marvelous move. It might look like it doesn't do much, but what it's really doing is blocking the advance of the opponent's pieces. Gisiek, they've planted a strong rock here on e5. Not easy to get rid of. The only way to try to fight against that pawn would be the move f6, which is extremely bad because, for example, here we would capture and then our rook would come in through d6, and this square would become very weak. Besides, this diagonal would also be weakened for queen entries, right? So we very quickly come to realize that this pawn is an incredibly powerful asset on the board. And here begins, let's say, a sophisticated and calculated maneuver by the player with the white pieces to try to win the game in a completely decisive and masterful way. Rook to d8. Of course, when we see this kind of move, what do we think? The first thing we think is, what are they trying to do to us? First, placing a rook in the center of the board. And second, watch out, X-ray attack on the queen. What comes to my mind right away is Black's plan. c5, c4, and watch out, they might take my bishop, because the bishop is in a relative pin, right? So now, of course, what do? Well, for now it doesn't bother me, because here I have a very strong move, which is the following. I develop the bishop, place it on g5, and quickly cause more trouble than they're causing me. At the moment, they can't bother me because they need two moves to do it, and I'm launching a direct attack on a rook. Careful, this is a key moment. Think about what you would play. If you played f6, that would probably be the worst move in this position, because after e takes f6, we could simply bring the rook back in, and this position would be wonderful for you, but very bad for black. If you thought, for example, bishop to e7, that would be a very bad move, although probably many of you considered it. For all of you who don't yet have a sophisticated and deep level of positional understanding, right, of understanding positional chess, the idea is that if black gives up this dark squared bishop, we would be more than happy and absolutely delighted to trade it, and then every single one of the dark squares would be ours. And we have a fantastic square, for example, here on d6, which we could take advantage of with knight to e4, and then bring our little knight in through there. In short, it's not a good idea. It's not a good deal for black to give up the dark squared bishop. Another idea we might have, for example, is knight to e7, but this would leave the bishop completely blocked, and we could keep putting on the pressure with the move knight to e4. This knight wants to jump in, and this position would also be very tough for black. Alright, don't go on so much, chess teacher. What should black do here? They have two options. One would be rook to d4, which has already been played in some games. We'll see why in a moment. What it does is control the fourth rank. And the other, which is what black actually played, is rook to d7. A much better idea than blocking the diagonal with either of these two pieces. You get it, right? Rook to d4 has its pros and cons. Putting it here is easy to kick out, right? It's a poorly placed rook. But the good thing about it is that it prevented this queen to g4, which now the player with the white pieces took advantage of to place her queen on g4, taking advantage indeed of the fact that the rook is no longer covering the fourth rank. The idea is that now the queen will effectively help with a strong lethal attack. c5 seems like a completely natural move. It's putting pressure on c4 and basically telling this bishop, what are you doing here? Although for now, this doesn't really bother white, and they take the opportunity to improve their pieces. Remember, whenever your opponent makes pawn moves that don't really do anything, they're just wasting time. And also, whenever a pawn moves, it leaves a lot of weak squares behind. And pay attention, because after this h6, which attacks the white bishop, do you know what the player with the white pieces did here? A move completely worthy of the best players in the world. Pay close attention, okay? She gave up her bishop on b5. Of course, whenever I see a move like that, even though we see it pretty often on the channel, because I always pick really interesting games for you, this isn't natural, right? It's not normal to sacrifice a bishop for a pawn. So why did she do it? Well, let's take a look because you're going to be fascinated. The idea is that logically we're pinning the rook. Our rook also comes into play. The entry on d7 would be deadly. What do they absolutely have to do? Capture the bishop. There's no other option. And the idea is that now we can recapture on b5 with the knight. We've given up a bishop in exchange for just two pawns. That means we've only given up a single point. It's nothing. The idea is that now our position is it's at a pretty decisive advantage. The queen, for example, doesn't have a better square than c6 to go to. That would be completely normal. And now the following would happen: rook takes rook, queen takes rook. And now the key move is to put the rook back on the file, attacking the queen. Think about it. The queen can't move because if she does, no matter where she goes, for example, even if she moves and captures the knight, then rook to d8 would be checkmate with the help of the bishop. No matter how much they're attacking our bishop, we're making even stronger moves so they can't capture it. This is important, okay? You can review this game as many times as you need. Careful, I know I'm going a bit fast, but the analysis and study of these games, especially watching them on video, which is so much fun, right? Or at least for me, it really helps improve your level of understanding. The idea here is that the queen can't move because otherwise mate would follow. And if the queen goes to c8, we would still win the queen with rook to d8 check, right? So the only move seems to be bishop to d5, right? Blocking the rook's diagonal. And now we're in serious trouble. Why? Because they're threatening both the bishop and the knight. Not only have we given up a piece, but now they're about to capture another one. So now what do I do? If I move the bishop, they take my knight. If I move the knight, they take my bishop. And if I play c4, which I know a lot of you are thinking about, attacking a pinned bishop, that wouldn't work either, because look, they take my bishop, and when I take their bishop, they take my knight. So they've taken two pieces from me in exchange for one. So what do I do here? The player with the block pieces probably thought, that was a nice piece sacrifice you made, but it didn't do you any good. And this is where they were wrong, because the player with the white pieces made the brilliant move rook takes d5, double exclamation mark. Obviously you can't capture with the queen. Why? Because then comes knight to c7 check and I take the queen. A classic fork. So you absolutely have to capture with the pawn. But of course, now what, chess teacher? If I've run out of ideas, I only have a knight and a bishop left, besides the queen. I can't check me, I can't do anything. If I play queen takes queen, it's just a queen trade. Careful, they're even threatening my bishop. What do I do? Well, pay attention, because here the marvelous final maneuver was the following. Knight to c7, check. What do you think about this? The king has nowhere to go because both squares are covered by the bishop. He has to capture it with the queen. There's no other choice. There's no other way. Now I'm left with only the queen and the bishop. Nothing else, but that's enough to finish winning the game with the marvelous queen to a4 check. The king can't move. He has to block with the queen. And now what? Queen to 8, and block can't escape. The only move is queen to c8, and we'll simply capture it with checkmate. So this is checkmate on the next move. What do you think? Well, for all of you who are playing without a system, just playing for the sake of playing, without really understanding what's going on, hey, take a look at the amazing course that Grandmaster Mauricio Flores has made exclusively for us. I personally asked him as a favor, and he created a course with more than 20 video lessons, and on top of that, interactive exercises. It's not an opening course. No. It's a course where he teaches you a winning model, so you can always reach winning positions, both with white and black. He teaches you starting from checkmate and then working backwards, showing you how you can get there. It's amazing, and everyone is loving it. And on top of all that, it's at a ridiculously low price, because it's even less than the cost of a single lesson, and just look at everything you get. So for all of you who haven't joined our community yet, if I were in your shoes right now, I would definitely take full advantage of this special launch price immediately. You will quickly see that it is basically a wonderful gift for all of you. I am fully aware that in some specific countries, there's a very big difference in the local currency value. I am truly aware of that, but I have tried my absolute best to adjust the price as much as humanly possible. All of you who truly know the immense value it offers will understand that it is truly a generous gift. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you want to join Mata Los Ganadores, you'll find the link right below in the video description. Certainly, if you have any questions, both Mauricio and I will be answering them. I'll be assisting him throughout the process. I hope you loved this video, and as always, I'll see you tomorrow in the next one, friends. Goodbye.